The worst thing a family member has done to me. Deadbeat brother crashed my Crown Victoria. I'm a 21-year-old guy, and I have an older brother, Dave, fake name, who has always been a pain in my life. We're only a year apart, but he used to beat me up as kids and acted like anything that was mine automatically belonged to him. Growing up, he was the golden child, and my parents constantly sided with him, which made my life miserable. At 18, I moved out and went to live with my uncle, a retired police officer. He's been incredibly supportive, even hooking me up with a decommissioned Crown Victoria. I love that car, but for some reason, Dave hated it. Maybe it was jealousy. He's gone through 3 beater cars, driving each into the ground, while my Crown Vic kept running perfectly. The first theft. When Dave wrecked his 3rd beater car, he asked to borrow my Crown Vic. I immediately said no because I know how reckless he is. He called me entitled and said he needed a car for work. I told him to take the bus because my car wasn't up for discussion. My parents then called me, pressuring me to lend it to him, but I stood my ground. My uncle even gave me a high five for not caving in. A few days later, I got off work to find my car missing. I called Dave, but he didn't answer. My parents finally admitted he borrowed it. Furious, I threatened to call the cops unless he returned it immediately. He showed up 20 minutes later, grinning, and revealed that he'd used a universal Crown Vic key he bought online to steal my car. I warned him that if he ever stole my car again, I'd press charges. He had the audacity to ask for a ride home after making me wait in the freezing cold. I told him to walk and drove off. After that incident, my uncle installed a tracking device in the car just in case. The Christmas incident. On Christmas Day, we were celebrating as usual with family. It was icy outside, so I'd been extra cautious driving to the party. I thought my car was safe, but halfway through the gathering, I glanced out the window and noticed it was missing. I checked the tracking app my uncle had installed and saw the car moving a few miles away. I immediately called Dave, and everyone at the party overheard the conversation. He told me to screw off and hung up, claiming he'd be back soon. I was livid, but I kept an eye on the tracker. A few minutes later, the dots stopped moving. Then we got a panicked call from Dave saying he'd crashed my car. He'd slid off the icy road and into a ditch. My uncle, parents, and I piled into my parents' minivan and followed the tracker to the crash site. We found my Crown Vic nose deep in a snowbank and Dave looking like a deer in headlights. My uncle was beyond furious. It was a former department car he'd been proud to pass on to me. I was seeing red. Taking action. Dave admitted he'd been drinking before taking the car and begged me not to call the police because he didn't want a DUI. My parents tried to smooth things over, telling me to let it go, but I'd had enough. I told Dave he was going to pay for the damage and called the police anyway. He ended up spending a night in jail for the DUI and theft. My parents were furious with me, saying I'd gone too far, but my uncle supported me completely. Update. Now my father's in jail. Fast forward a few weeks, and things have gotten even messier. My dad tried to cover for Dave by lying to the police about the circumstances of the crash, which ended up backfiring. He's now facing legal trouble of his own for obstruction of justice. As for me, I've officially cut ties with Dave. My Crown Vic is a total loss, and I'm saving up for a new car. It's been a nightmare, but at least I learned to stand up for myself and not let family walk all over me.